Miguel Gomez-Ibanez of the Black Better Street School is interested in 128 North Street, and there's been a development, I think, since Newman.
Yes, there has. Thanks. I was thinking you ought to get $2,000 to use your number.
Yeah, I think the IRS wouldn't like that.
I presented on Monday, whatever it was. What day is it? Thursday? Was it Monday? I'm just driving. And I'm all the way. And to say that I thought that the situation at 128 North Street, a small building that's adjacent to ours, attached to ours, might be coming up for sale or disposition. And then the very next day, I got a call from the Boston Business Journal saying that they had had a press release from the state saying that there was going to be an RFP released. I haven't seen the RFP. I have no idea what it's going to be. But I was just wanted to relay to this group and to Newnick that we've been close to this project for a while. In fact, the water service and the fire alarm and the sprinkler service and the fire alarm for the state portion of this building, which is adjacent to ours, is served by our building. So, and we've maintained our water service since we moved in. It must have been some agreement with the city and the state, or maybe it was a piping arrangement that predated when the state owned the entire building. Whatever it was, it maintains itself. And we have been quiet about it, but insistent about it, that we're connected and we'd like to expand into that building. But now that they have an RFP out, they're going to be bound by a public process, and it's going to go to a bidder of some kind, and we don't know what the details are. And as usual, we're not going to be able to compete financially with someone. And I don't really know. The building has a lot of constraints. It's about 5,000 or 6,000 square feet, depending on how you count it. It has the greenway facility in the basement. And it has 2 stairs. And so by the time you take 2 fire stairs out of 5,000 square feet, you're really not left with much. There's no elevator. There's no handicap access. So whoever might use it would have a bunch of hurdles to go through. But that doesn't mean it couldn't be, a fancy restaurant or even a private home. Who knows what could happen? So, but it's not really a different scenario than the one we faced when we wanted to purchase the printing plant and the police station from the city. It's very similar. The condominium developers were interested in that, and we had to compete with that. And the city set a minimum bid, which everybody had to match. So I guess my plea here is, obviously, I believe this group did write a letter of support for our bid on the printing plant police station. And I'm hopeful that in the 2 years really since that transpired, that you think that we did our part to do what we said we'd do. For a nonprofit, we raised $17 million in contributions, and we completed a $14 million renovation of the buildings in 9 months. So we were under the gun by Mayor Menino to get out of our building so the Elliott School could take it over, and that's what we did. It was a lot of work, but we've got a nice school now. So hopefully we've got a track record that we will do what we say we'll do, and we have not only a history of being a good neighbor at 39 North Bennett Street, but we've got a history now of being a good neighbor for a year at 150 North Street. I know Monica's and some of the local people have said it's much nicer for them to have people, light in the windows and kids coming back and forth and things going on rather than just a kind of a semi-abandoned building. I was thinking about the conversation just a moment ago about trees and stuff. We really can't plant any trees in our space because we only have about 3 feet between the building and the street, and we have that iron fence that we can't mess with because the renovation work we did was historic preservation certified. So we even had to restore those brass lamps on the front, and we went through terrific hoops when we replaced the windows to make sure that the new insulated windows exactly match the old steel windows. But we do have that 3 feet, and it could be a hedge or something. We've been sort of wondering about it. When we moved in, we were told that rats were there, and it was sort of overgrown with, that it wasn't well taken care of, that little space behind the fence. But as we move into the building and sort of get used to being there, the dirt patch that is between the fence and the building isn't very attractive either. So maybe in some small way we can help green the north end in a way that won't just attract rodents and rats and be a place that people can't really look into or police or maintain. So anyway, that's all. I think it may be premature to ask for another letter of support because we don't know, what the ground rules are, what the situation is. But I imagine it'll happen relatively quickly when it happens, that the deadlines for submitting will be relatively compressed. Usually these things have some relationship to elections and transfer of administrations, so that gives you a window between now and December. So it could be that the state is looking to make a decision between now and December, which means I'd have to be back here in October or something like that with some more details. Yes, sir.
When you come back in October, I have a question, unless you can answer it now, which is, do you know whether Mass DOT is subject to the public bidding law? And the reason I wonder about that is because of the experience I had with Parcel 9, and they publish RFPs, but my impression is that they're not obliged to award to the highest bidder.
You're right, but they won't admit to it. What happened, and because we've had our lawyer look into this, and we also met with Secretary Davey, when Mass Board and the Mass Turnpike and all of those agencies were consolidated into DOT, the state enabling legislation gave the new entity very wide leeway for disposition of properties. So they do not have to do this exhaustive process that other state agencies do. But there's always a smell test, and we were told in a project like this, the idea that it would not go to the highest bidder would be very difficult to pull off.
Do you have any more property to trade?
No, we don't have any more rabbits. No more rabbits.
Do you own the house?
The other thing I want to remind you or tell you is that we're pretty proud of is that we just you don't know this unless you're taller than everybody in the room. We just finished a solar array. We put solar panels on the roof of the 150, and it is the largest solar array in downtown Boston, except for the one that's on the Tim O'Neill building over by the garden. So we're hoping that the mayor and NSTAR will have some kind of a dedication for us in October. But we're going to be actually we had a 50 kilowatt system, and so we have the capability of actually creating energy, and it will save us a lot of money. I doubt whether we'll, since we use so much energy, I doubt it will put anything back into the grid. But it will be a model for the mayor's program, which he's called the Race to Solar, where he's trying to get a lot of nonprofits, especially and building owners in the downtown, to make efforts in the renewable energy department. So we're leaders in that, and very happy to be the leaders in that. There's an element of traditionalism that is associated with North Bennett Street School, and we also like to have the aspect of groundbreaking or leading the charge in some ways, being innovators as well as keepers of tradition.
Any other questions or comments? Dave?
Yeah. You probably got this, but I got an email from John Romano from
Yes.
DOT,
Yeah.
and they are having a public meeting to do with your building and the 11A, and I forget the date, but it's coming up soon. So check, get a hold of John Romano at MassDOT.
It's October 8th.
You got it?
It's
You got
a,
it.
I hope they tell me.
yeah. It's
It's October 8th.
6 p.m. at right here. October 8th, 6 p.m. right here, and it's on both properties.
11A and
Parcel 11A in front of Mother Anna's, as well as the tunnel administration building.
6 PM?
6 PM.
Thank you. Somebody might have told me at some point.
Date number 2, did you have something?
I had two questions, actually. First is, I live across the street on North Street from your school and would commend you for being a good neighbor, an improvement over the previous tenants. And I was wondering, I have a view of your solar panel garden on your roof.
You
I
do,
was wondering if it was very expensive to install all those panels.
$178,000.
Wow, so it was expensive.
But we're gonna be saving, it's gonna be generating $25,000 a year in electricity.
That's great. And secondly, do you know what, if anything, the DOT is using that building for currently, other than just
There are
storage?
miscellaneous offices for construction superintendents on some of their projects around town. It was going to be the headquarters for DOT for the government station renovation, but they decided not to. The government center T-stop, but they decided to put that someplace else.
Good.
And that was good for us because that project's going to go on forever.
Bob Venuti?
Yeah, I talked about this today down at Commercial Street with a few people, and the comment I got was, I'm gonna ask you a question. Have you ever made a scholarship available to any North End kids in the lifetime of the North Bennett Street? Although you did a great job here and everything, I'm getting comments down there of negativity, and I told them I would ask you today.
Okay. We have instituted, as a part of the move to 150 North Street, a commitment to create one fully funded student at North Bennett Street School every year. And the stipulations are that it would be, that preference would be given to a graduate of the John Elliott School. And so far, we're on our second full scholarship this year, and for a Boston resident, all expenses paid. And if you don't get that, there are $300,000 worth of gift aid that we have in a pool. So there are quite a lot. We give away about $1 million in scholarship, or there's $1 million worth of scholarship each year. But there's one fully funded by the school, Boston resident with preference to a North Ender.
That's what I asked. You may have $300,000 or something to give away. Has not any North Ender ever got a scholarship from you?
To my knowledge, nobody has applied at this point for the scholarship from the North End. People don't come to our school because of the scholarship. They come to our school because they really want to learn the very, very specific and narrow things that we do. And so, if you just say, hey, you can get a free ride someplace.
Oh, I mean,
you gotta want to.
if somebody wants to be a piano tuner, or somebody wants to be a carpenter.
Yeah, absolutely.
The doors are open. These kids, there's an opportunity for North End kids. I don't care about Madison Park. I don't care about the other part of Boston. They have all their programs out there. Well, I'm only asking you to focus on the North End.
All right, send them on.
Question.
Yes, sir.
So is the scope of this RFP totally unknown at this point? Will it be a lease arrangement with the state or a sale? Is it only going to be a portion of the building? And might it also include 11A? Do they put out an RFP that includes both that building and 11A?
When I have been speaking to DOT and the real estate disposition people there, they say they have the choice of a 99-year lease or a sale. And the benefits of the 99-year lease for DOT are that they can put more restrictions on the user than they can in an outright sale. And so if it goes to be a 99-year lease, then it will be because they want to have some more control than they could. If it goes to a sale, then highest bidder is pretty much the only criteria. But on a lease project, so, theoretically the lease would benefit us. We've never leased a building before. When I was looking for the space for 150, the BRA offered me space in the Charlestown Navy Yard, and they were, everything was a 99-year lease, and I said, we're not doing that. That's too short. So we turned down the Charlestown shipyard because we didn't want to sell it for just 99 years.
You don't expect, you expect it to be just the building,
Yeah.
not tied to 11A?
No, they're two separate problems, issues, yeah. They'll be two separate items.
Thanks.
Again?
Just a quick question. Would it be, have you ever talked to some of the other technical schools to try to form an alliance or to help get funding? You know, like the Architectural Center, the Wentworth, Franklin Institute, schools that technical courses, and some of them indirectly relate to some of the, you know, architectural preservation, so forth. And I'm just wondering if you find out more about this RFP, if you could, or if you have communicated with other local technical schools that may be able to pool their resources to help you get what you need.
It's possible. We have a lot of cross fertilization with those. We teach the Boston Architectural College students preservation techniques, and we teach Mass College of Art in our shop, students in our shop, and Simmons College sends us their library science students for bookbinding training. So we have a lot of them, but we do better, I think, by sort of relationships between discrete individuals. I think for us it works better than sort of tying our two railroads together.
Sandra, did you have something?
Is it gonna include that little toll booth that's sitting in the garden out there?
I don't know, but I think it might. You want it to live there?
It's gonna make a neat office.
Yeah, no, you're welcome to. We can do a deal. We can do a deal.
There you go.
I'd try to do the I want to reiterate that you have been a very good neighbor. You've also made, you didn't reference this, but you've made available that beautiful space you have on the second floor for community meetings, and we all appreciate that. I want to ask, on the property itself, on 128 North Street, can you speak a little more of your vision for what you do with it?
It's a tiny little building. It's about 5,000 square feet. It's all cut up into little offices. So I think that the best use for us would be to move our offices into that space. And we now have offices in the printing plant building, and we could just gut them out, and it could be wide open space for more bedrooms and classrooms. So that would be probably the thing to do. Because it doesn't lend itself to anything but offices, really, or housing, I suppose.
Or perhaps retail on the street level for your store.
Yeah, but you got to put a ramp up there. You can't have it's got this great big flight of steps.
But you wouldn't be like blasting it out and doing a huge renovation on the building.
No, because everything is protected by historic restrictions. And the reason that we could develop that in a reasonable cost way is because we have the elevator and the infrastructure and handicap access in our building, and all we have to do is cut a hole and go inside of it. So we wouldn't have any of those problems about public access or restricted access, or even adding an elevator to a building footprint that's already too small. In fact, we could eliminate one of the staircases. We could blow one of those staircases out and gain space, whereas anyone else would need them both of them.
Well, I just had a question. Since you seem to have a PR problem on Commercial Street anyway, would you consider putting an ad in the paper every now and then about the fellowship for the North End student, or contacting the school and just doing more in terms of publicity?
Sure. I imagine that the papers would publish just a news story about the scholarship. I don't think we,
I think so.
I imagine it would be.
If you write it.
Yeah.
Didn't you mention you filled one already?
We have filled the one for this year, and so applicants are coming in now for September of 15.
So someone from the Elliott School, but not North End?
Nobody from the Elliott School, but why we put that in there is, we've been training these Elliott School kids for 5 years now, 4 years. And it's, some of them are getting old enough to be at high school age, and those are the folks that we want. We want to get the students that were there when they were kids, where we gave them this idea that this was what they might do, and then come back and join us again. I mean, that's really the whole thing. The circle will, I think, connect, but the sixth graders they're just getting through high school now, so we're getting close.
If you have a web page or something on that scholarship program, if you let us know about it, we can certainly put a link from our NEWRA website.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much
We'll
for.
follow these.